Sims Walker, knocked down.
Oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again.
Jackson takes it himself. Look at him dart back and forth. Oh! He broke his ankles.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Still looking. Firing. Near corner. It's caught!
Denver! Unbelievable!
And welcome to the fourth down fiasco.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football, brought to you by BetStamp. BetStamp is a sports bookie with a great collection of other sports bookies, so to speak, and they have all kinds of, what would you call them, Tanner? Like specials, deals?
Yeah, like deals, specials.
Yeah, all kinds of ways for you to get additional money when betting. So that's, Bet365, that's Caesars, that's, all the big major sports bookies, BetMGM, all of those guys are in one place for you. So you can find that at signupexpert.com/fiasco and place a $10 bet, because that really helps us out here on the show, but we can't tell you why. So, as always, we ask that you rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's the best way for us to grow the show. And today, with me is my co-host and contributor, Tanner Vinsky. No Danny Weber for the 3rd week in a row because he's off in Europe, just goofing around, having a great time without us. Didn't decide he wanted to extend an invite. But yeah, how are you today, Tan?
Not in Europe.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. It's about how I feel on this day. So, any life updates for you?
You know what? We can we can gloss over that one.
Fair enough. That's about how I feel too, right
Yeah.
now. So, just a lot of shit hitting the fan, but we're here and we're excited to talk ball. So, with that, it's 4th down, goal to go. Throwing it back to the early days of 4th down fiasco, and that used to be our segue catchphrase. Tanner, would you like to go through the scores from this past week in the NFL?
Yeah, let's do it. We started the week off with Denver versus New Orleans, the primetime game everybody was waiting for. Did not amount to much. Denver blew out the Saints 33-10. We then went to London, where Jacksonville played again in London, and they blew out the Patriots 32-16.
They said hello to Danny for us.
Yeah, exactly. And, Danny used to hate the Patriots. I don't know how he feels now that Brady and Belichick are gone, but at least he got that,
Left home with something.
Seattle then blew out the Falcons 34-14, which was really shocking. I am amazed that Atlanta did so poorly at home. Buffalo then blew out the Tennessee Titans, which was not shocking at all, 34-10. Cincinnati holds on against Cleveland. It got scary there because Deshaun Watson went down 21-14.
My God, I just realized what you said.
Green Bay steals a game from Houston 24-22, showing that they're a pretty scary threat in the NFC. Indianapolis beats the Tua-less Dolphins 16-10.
Barely.
In the game of the week, Detroit makes a last-second field goal to beat Minnesota 31-29. Philadelphia shows the New York Football Giants that they are still the New York Football Giants and win 28-3. The Rams are able to come out and beat the Raiders 20-15 now that they do not have Devontae Adams officially. Washington brought it back to 2017 and had Mariota throwing touchdowns to Zach Ertz, winning 40-7 with their backup QB 40-7.
Wow.
Kansas City made Brock Purdy look terrible and won 28-18. Then Pittsburgh, Kansas City's defense made Brock Purdy look terrible. Pittsburgh also made Aaron Rodgers look terrible. I almost said Aaron Jones. Aaron Rodgers winning 37-15. Baltimore, just like we predicted last week, is able to pull ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 41-31.
And it wasn't that close either.
It wasn't that close, and unfortunately, as they were trying to come back into the game, Chris Godwin went down with an injury, which was super sad.
Yeah.
And then for the Monday night game that nobody watched, because everybody was watching the other one, the Arizona Cardinals actually beat the Los Angeles Chargers 17-15.
Good for them. Good for them. Last second field goal, right?
I can't tell you. I did not actually.
I didn't watch that. I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive it was a walk-off field goal for Arizona. But
we're recording on Tuesday. I wasn't bored enough to go look at highlights from Cardinals and Chargers. So
fair enough. Before we do Fiasco Awards, any games that stuck out to you?
There's a lot really that were relatively interesting this week. I think the biggest one, I mean, was just how great Minnesota and Detroit both looked. I mean, there was a lot of people saying Detroit was going to lose this game because they were out Aiden Hutchinson, and they won't have him unless they make the Super Bowl. And it was shocking to see that their defense was actually relatively capable in their absence, and Minnesota's offense is still clicking. I mean, even with Sam Darnold at QB, I mean, it is a scary offense that they have going. Minnesota's defense is probably one of the best in the league. And a game like this, I still think like Detroit and Minnesota are like 2A, 2B in the NFL. I think these are some of the best teams in the NFL. And really the only team I would take over them is the Chiefs because the Chiefs are a cheat code.
Yeah.
But I think both these teams could compete against, Baltimore, Buffalo, Houston. These are definitely the top 3 teams of the NFL.
I mean, the fact that, Detroit was still able to put up 31 against Minnesota's defense tells you a lot because Minnesota's defense has been just monstrous this season. Yeah. And to your point, Kansas City winning by 10 against San Fran, and Pat Mahomes threw 2 interceptions and didn't have a passing touchdown. Like, what are we doing? It's so frustrating because it's just like they've gotten so good at winning that's just what they do now. They just win, and they can win however they want to win, and there's just not a whole lot of stopping it.
And you can't really use the injury excuse for San Francisco because, I mean, look how banged up the Chiefs are.
They're missing half their roster and they're still undefeated. It's disgusting.
It's unfortunate to say, but there's a reason Brock Purdy isn't in the top 10 of QBs in the NFL. People like to elevate him to that, and a lot of people really like to throw him down into the dumpster. He's an average starting QB, and that's really all he is. I
can give him slightly. I can give him above average. I can give him, maybe that like 12th-ish spot. I think he's on the outside looking in of the top 10 for sure. But yeah, he just doesn't elevate a team whatsoever. And we're seeing that now that guys are out and CMC's out. Ayuk's out for the season now, which sucks. Even I, as someone who I hate the 49ers, I love football being played in its purest form, which means no injuries. So I never like to see anybody get injured in the league. But yeah, it's San Fran is hitting the panic button now. I was on Twitter because I had to troll them losing. Hate watching. It's what I'm best at, and I do feel bad for their fans though because their fans are in the same level of panic that we're in right now, where it's just
absolutely. I mean,
God, every week you don't know what you're going to get. This, they do not look like Super Bowl contenders whatsoever at this point in the season. May not even make the playoffs in the direction that they're headed right now.
Honestly, I mean, that's what I was going to say. They're 3-4 right now. They've lost 2 division games already. They've lost to the Cardinals and the Rams. If you're at 3-4 at this stage of the season and you're 1-2 in your division, I mean, that team usually doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So San Francisco needs a lot to go right for them to get to where they need to be. But I think even if this team makes the playoffs, I mean, you're not beating Minnesota, you're not beating Detroit, you're not beating Green Bay, I don't think you're beating the Falcons or the Bucks.
Luckily for them, Seattle is at 4-3, and so it's literally, what is that, a 1-game difference technically?
And I think they play each other next week, actually.
No, they play us this upcoming weekend.
Okay, then it's the week after that I think they play Seattle because I knew they had a quick turnaround between their division games.
So, Fiasco Awards. What do you have? Who do you have?
This is the easiest week for me to pick a fiasco award that I've ever had picking.
Okay.
It's to Myles Garrett for what he said at the press conference after. And I'll give Jameis Winston a participation trophy here because what he said was also asinine. But for Jameis, the issue with Jameis is no one ever takes him seriously because he's almost like a caricature. Like every time Jameis is in front of a microphone and being recorded, it feels like a Key and Peele skit, right? Yeah. Like it doesn't feel like reality. And so anything Jameis says, almost everybody takes with a grain of salt, right? Yeah. Like no one's actually taking Jameis Winston seriously. So for him to come out and say the things he did after the loss, like, I mean, yeah, it's abhorrent to be defending Deshaun Watson in those ways. But I mean, like, Jameis Winston is just like such a meme that it doesn't really irk me as much as it does Myles Garrett, who is the leader of that team, whether or not he wants to believe it. He has been there almost, I think, probably the longest of anybody on that roster, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And he's the main reason Baker Mayfield isn't in Cleveland. People don't talk about this very often, but when that locker room was divided, it was Camp Myles Garrett and it was Camp Baker Mayfield. And Myles Garrett did not like Baker Mayfield and did not want him in the locker room. And that's why they moved on, because they said, oh, we need an adult because Baker Mayfield's the immature one. I think seeing everything we've seen from Myles Garrett through this career, Myles Garrett is the immature one. He threw a tantrum on a football field, ripped off somebody's helmet and swung it at him, and then afterwards said, oh, it's okay, he called me a slur. But despite there being microphones everywhere, nothing came out that he actually said a slur. It's just he was getting his ass cooked by fucking Mason Rudolph, so he decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to concuss him for the rest of his life, because that's the type of person I am. And so I'm going to come out there, and to my fans who have watched an abysmal product at QB, one of the worst QBs who have played in probably the last 20 years. I mean, this is some of the worst quarterback performances we've seen from a starting QB in years.
Especially one that commands that kind of money.
That commands that type of money. And yes, you shouldn't boost or you shouldn't cheer for somebody getting injured. However, you're not taking into account that there are human beings in that stadium who know that your quarterback has sexually assaulted over 30 women. Mm-hmm. And that's not even allegedly he did it. Okay, why is he settling everything out of court then? Why isn't he trying to fight for any of that money? He's paying everybody hush money because guess what? He sexually assaulted 30 plus women. Yeah. So to sit there and say, oh, he's been a class act, he's been a model citizen for his entire college career and most of his pro career. Yeah, that word most is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, right? Yeah. A lot of heavy lifting. Yeah. Because guess what? He is not a model citizen. This is a genuinely sick and twisted individual who has been sexually assaulting women and making women feel unsafe in their profession. This isn't just somebody who's going to the club and getting drunk and doing something, right? This is somebody who is actively going to massage parlors and making women who are trying to work their everyday job become victims of sexual exploitation. That is what's happening. So for you to go out there and say, oh, we got to be better as fans, we have to do this better. Okay, I get it. It's your teammate. You need to defend your teammate. But you are actively defending somebody who is a monster. Yeah. So I'm sorry if I feel zero sympathy for you or if I don't want to hear any of that bullshit that we shouldn't be throwing stones from a glass house. Guess what, buddy? I haven't assaulted somebody on a fucking NFL field with a helmet. So, yeah, I don't have to sit here and throw stones from a glass house because guess what? I don't have the past that says I have to look out for sexual assaulters. Yeah. So Myles Garrett is an idiot, to say the least. And you know what? Like, if that's the way you want to treat it and that's the way you want to handle the situation and you want to defend Deshaun Watson and blame the fans for everything that Jimmy Haslam and this organization has done, then you know what? You deserve to be on the Cleveland Browns. You deserve to lose that many games. And you deserve to be in that situation.
Going back to the fans booing, I actually heard a very interesting perspective, which I was like, yeah, fair enough. Because, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, don't boo somebody, you know, your player who's getting injured. And like, to your point, yeah, in most situations, I agree with that. You know, you should never boo a player that gets injured. But this is going to be my one exception. And the comparison that I was given, that I was like, wow, I hope people like internalize that perspective, is, people cheering for Deshaun Watson being injured. Yeah, that might hurt his feelings, but think about how much it hurts the feelings of the victims of Deshaun Watson, who hear thousands upon thousands of people cheering for him every week.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not taking into account that injury that's being cheered on, basically, that being more of a emotional and mental based injury, but still. And him being able to get the contract that he has is such a slap in the face to those victims. So, yeah, Normally, I know I just talked about how I don't condone, I never want players injured in talking about San Fran, but those guys are just guys I don't like because they, constantly whoop my
Play
team.
for a rival. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long-term rival, but those guys are just normal NFL players. But we're talking about a multi-time, he is a rapist. He's not a convicted. I almost said convicted. I see.
He got away with it. He hasn't been convicted.
Yeah, he got away with it. But he is a rapist. I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. And it's not like he can take me to court for it, because if he takes me to court for it, that means we have to reopen those cases against him. So yes, exactly. Deshaun Watson is a rapist. And I don't feel bad whenever rapists tear their Achilles. So.
No, and the thing, and that's why it's so frustrating, the Myles Garrett thing, because he's saying, oh, well, how could you, like, this guy's going through so much. You have no idea what this guy's going through. Yeah, he tore his Achilles. Those women are going to be scared for the rest of their lives performing their profession. That is what Deshaun Watson has done. So
and
don't for a second that I don't feel bad that Deshaun Watson is getting medically cleared and medically taken care of for the next year of his life in the best medical systems in America, right? Yeah. Because if Deshaun Watson was you or I, we would be in prison, right? Mm-hmm. Or he would be in prison. But since he is an NFL quarterback, he gets to get away with that.
Yeah.
And another thing Myles Garrett said, where he said, oh, I don't like to use the word deserved, and I just said you deserved the Browns. I'm sorry. You don't deserve the Browns. You have earned the Browns. You have earned the Browns organization for you to be there. Mm-hmm. And that's – I don't get it. I can't believe Myles Garrett would be that foolish to say that. And you put into the perspective on top of that with the way Joe Burrow responded. Joe Burrow didn't say, oh, like – I'm glad people were cheering because he was a sexual assaulter. Joe Burrow just said, oh, man, and yeah, it always sucks to see like a guy go down, no matter if it's for your team or another team. Like, you always feel for that person. Yeah. Why didn't you just say that, Myles Garrett?
Yeah, there's a PR way to address it for sure.
But, again, it shows the type of person between Joe Burrow and Myles Garrett. Joe Burrow, doesn't assault people on a football field with a helmet.
Yeah, fair enough. He took that one personally. Fair enough. Any final thoughts on your fiasco award before we go to a lighter note for a fiasco award?
No, just I can't believe Myles Garrett said that, and I'm not shocked Jameis said that at all.
Fair. My fiasco award, it feels so wrong to just put this fiasco award in with the same. This is obviously not the same level, but I have to choose somebody, and I can't choose the people that you chose. So I am going with Davante Adams for football related reasons and not for personal related reasons. But Davante Adams, who, faked a hamstring injury to not have to play for his Las Vegas Raiders that he was on 2 weeks prior, forces their hand, gets the trade to play with his guy, Aaron Rodgers, on the, at the time, 2-4 New York Jets, who it felt like, man, if they could just get their offense to do just a little bit more, everything's going to be all right. Well, they got Davante, and Davante, 9 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards, and that 30 yards is kind of generous because 20 of them came in garbage time. Was absolutely ineffective the entire game. And Pittsburgh absolutely mollywopped the shit out of the New York Jets, in a 37-15 affair that was beautiful to watch. I have to thank you, Tanner, and your team, and forgive all the things that I said a couple of weeks ago about park and bake cookies. You know what? There's a smile for everyone out there. At least when we get to demolish Aaron Rodgers the way that y'all did.
I love it. I can't believe that Devontae Adams lost the Steelers 2 weeks in a row. Like that shit is so hilarious.
I feel like that's never happened, but that has to have never happened before.
No,
right?
it has because of there's been a couple of examples of a team playing somebody week 17 and then their playoff matchup or week 16 or 18, whatever you want to call it, however many
whatever
weeks
the last week is,
happened, and then they'll play that division opponent in the playoffs. That actually happened. I mean, Big Ben has lost to the same team twice in a row because we lost to the Browns when we had all our backups in, and then the Browns made the playoffs, and we lost to the Browns in the playoffs in 2020. So everybody on that roster has done the same as Devontae Adams, but they did it less spectacularly. Like this was,
he did it with two different teams. I would argue to say I feel like it's never happened with two different teams.
Yeah,
that's got to be a new thing. But yeah, how incredible! I saw a tweet where someone said, "Man, Pittsburgh's got an easy job. They just got to scout the same guy 2 weeks in a row."
Well, that's what Mike Tomlin said in the presser when they were talking about like, oh, how do you feel about having to prepare for Devontae Adams this week? And he's like, this is easy. I've already prepared for Devontae Adams. He's like, I already scouted him. I already know how we're going to prep him.
Yeah. It absolutely phenomenal way to welcome Devontae Adams to the now 2-5 New York Jets, which at this point in the season had a better record last year with Zach Wilson.
The best part about it, too, is the New York Jets now have a worse record than the Cincinnati Bengals, who started 0-4, or was it 1-3? I forget. It was something like that. But
man. Yeah, no, it was 0-4. Dude, the hate watching for the New York Jets is awesome, and I love it. Mainly just because I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but
yeah, me either.
Cool. Okay, then that takes us to pick'ems for next week, which I should probably pull up the scores. Do you have the schedule? I mean, do you have it pulled up by chance?
Yeah, I'll start, and then we'll get your take first, and we'll do that. Okay, so our first matchup we have is 5-1 Minnesota Vikings going to Los Angeles to play the Los Angeles Rams, which are 2-4. Who do you got?
Dude, Los Angeles is about to get dog walked.
I agree. It looks like Minnesota's a 16-point favorite right now.
Okay. Even for the NFL, that's absurd, though. Like, these are still professional football teams. But, I mean, yeah, they're probably going to win by 10, 14, maybe more. Who knows?
No, I agree. Minnesota looked amazing last week despite the loss. And I don't hate the Rams, and they might get Cooper Kupp back, which should make the game a little bit more exciting if they do. I don't think it's enough, though. I think the Rams are in a different tier and are definitely going to lose by multiple scores.
Fair enough.
Next one we got is the 4-2 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals.
This will be a hate watch for me, and let's go, Joe.
This is a weird game because 2 weeks ago, I would have slammed the Eagles easily on this and been like, yeah, the Eagles got this. Cincinnati's picking up steam, and I really don't think the Eagles are as good as their 4-2 record says they are.
Agreed.
However, what is going to have me pick Philadelphia is the Bengals have arguably the worst. I have to look at the the run defense numbers, but I imagine Cincinnati's like bottom 3 run defense in the NFL. And Saquon Barkley has been phenomenal so far this year. So as long as Philadelphia runs the ball and keeps control of the game, I have a hard time seeing Cincinnati win it.
Fair enough. I think, with Cincinnati just picking up steam, I think that this is going to be a game that Philadelphia kind of sleepwalks into. Because they have been notorious to do that the past couple of seasons under Sirianni. So, yeah, I think that this is a game where they're like, okay, we're going into Cincinnati. They're 3-4. They're not very good, blah, blah, blah. To your point, yeah, they've got a bottom 3 run defense in the league, and then they're just going to come out flat. And I think that Cincinnati's offense has been putting up enough points over the course of the past few weeks that they're just going to get ahead and they're just going to play a game of keep away of like, hey, look, yep, we're ahead and you might keep scoring, but so are we. And I think it'll come down to, it'll be a close game, but I think it'll come down to, a last minute drive. Burrow gets them in, range for a field goal or something. They win the game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm not extremely confident in it, but I think, if they can have Saquon Barkley do his thing, it will be hard for Cincinnati to get into it.
Fair enough.
This won't be a hard game to pick at all, though. Is we have the 5-2 Baltimore Ravens traveling to the 1-6 Cleveland Browns.
Hey, make no mistake, Jameis Winston about to put up 3 tuds and 3 picks, and they're going to lose this game pretty handily.
Hey, I would agree, but I think DTR is starting. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be starting over Jameis, which is pretty strange.
Okay,
to be honest.
Then what was going to be a 10-point game is now going to be a 21-point game. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this slate of games is very similar to last week's, where it's like at the front end of it, you've got a lot of just like shit show blowouts. And then towards the back end of it, there's going to be some more competitive games.
More interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like we're picking for the ELF right now. Because next we have Tennessee versus Detroit in Detroit, and Tennessee's about to get waxed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the -11 line is a good line. I think Detroit's going to win by 2 touchdowns minimum. Easily.
Yep. 3-4 Arizona Cardinals, 2-4 Miami Dolphins. Is Tua back for this game?
Tua is back.
That'll be a fun game as long as Tua doesn't die on the field.
Yeah, that would be ideal. That would be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, him not being willing to do the Guardian caps, man, I'm sorry, but that CTE is talking to him like the Green Goblin mask. Like, he needs to do the right thing.
I do understand why he doesn't want to wear it, just because he is playing quarterback and it's supposed to be better for linemen, and it doesn't really help for big hits. It only helps for sustained hits. And also, like, there's not a lot of airflow in the Guardian cap, so it makes it hard for him to, like, breathe and call plays inside the helmet. I can see how that can be difficult for a QB. But if I'm Tua, I'm wearing it. Like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to take whatever safety precautions I can, because I don't know if Tua's not scared, but if I were him, I'd be terrified that anytime I go out on the football field, that it's the last time I ever walk or see or hell even live,
Yeah, truly. And that's not even an exaggeration. He is one good hit away from being a vegetable at this point in his life. And that's scary. And he should be taking that seriously, and he's not. But I'm going to go with Arizona on this one still, even with Tua playing. Arizona's been playing some better football as of late. I wouldn't say good, but they've been playing some better football as of late. And so I think that they'll, Miami's not with it right now, because a lot to do with the Tua stuff. But even before Tua went down, they just seem kind of out of sorts. So I'll go with Arizona on this one.
I'm with you there. I think Tua's going to need to shake off some rust, and on top of that, he's also coming off of a brutal concussion. Yeah. So there's going to be some learning pains coming back to football. Mm-hmm. Kyler's been playing really well. I just can't imagine Arizona not having a good game.
Yeah, dude, Kyler's been absolutely murdering people with his feet as of recent. So
I know. It's been fun. Kyler's been fun to watch.
Yeah. He looks like high school him. I can say that. We have the 2-5 New York Jets versus the 1-6 New England Patriots, and this one is in Foxborough.
I mean, the Jets gotta win. If they don't win, man, I mean, Devontae Adams is getting traded again, and Aaron Rodgers is trading himself out of there. Mm-hmm. Like, if they drop to 2-6, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing the rest of the season there.
And Devontae Adams will be a Cowboy. Yeehaw. This will be a good game. The 4-3 Atlanta Falcons versus the 4-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, this decides the division, at least right now. So
yeah, at least who's ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. Both these teams are very similar to me. I think Atlanta's offense is more explosive, but I like the Bucs defense more than I like Atlanta's defense. So it makes it hard to pick for them. I'm going to lean Atlanta just because it looks like Godwin's out for the season.
Yeah.
And although it's in Tampa Bay, I don't know. This seems like a game where Younghoe Koo kicks like a 53-yard field goal to win it or something like that. That's just what it feels like.
That boy Young Ho. I'm with you on that. I'm going to pick Atlanta just because, between the Godwin injury and it feels like Tampa's been spiraling the past few weeks.
They have been. I think their momentum is starting to fall off. It's kind of like what happened with the Saints, except the Saints' momentum fell off a cliff. Theirs is just slowly descending. Yeah.
I'm going to pick Atlanta on this one. Next game should be very difficult to choose. The 5-2 Green Bay Packers at the 2-5 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it's definitely going to Green Bay. I mean, Jacksonville has not looked good this year, and that's really all there is to say about Jacksonville. I can't believe they're 2-5. I mean, I thought they weren't going to be great, but I thought they were an 8-win team. I thought they were an 8 or 9 win team. I did not. Right now, they're a 4-win team, if they're lucky.
Yeah, if they're lucky. No, I was low on Jacksonville to begin with. I'm just not convinced about anything with their roster. And Green Bay had a real big win this past week, so definitely carrying some momentum. And they're just a good team. They're a really good team. So, the 4-3 Indianapolis Colts at the 5-2 Houston Texans.
Division games always get weird. However, I think Houston is just a much better team than Indianapolis. And like we were mentioning, where we were looking at like the Bucs and the Ravens, we're like, oh, these are two very different 4-2 teams. I'm amazed that Indianapolis is a 4-3 team. I don't think they're that good. So I think Houston's going to take this one pretty handily.
Yeah, and Houston's coming off of a tough, close loss against Green Bay. I think they're going to come out angry because they it was a home game last week for them, right?
Yeah, it was a home day. It was a home game for Green Bay.
Oh, for Green Bay. Okay. For some reason, I thought Houston lost at home. I was like, that especially will make them bad. But regardless, you always want to, bounce back from a loss. And Houston is a very tough team that's coached right. And I think D'Amico Ryan's going to have the boys firing on all cylinders, have them angry as hell. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one didn't get ugly quickly.
Definitely.
2-5 New Orleans Saints versus the 3-3 LA Chargers. I feel like they're the same team.
I like LA a lot more than I like the Saints right now.
Well, because Carr being out.
Yeah, with Carr being out, I think they're gonna. I think honestly the line is relatively good, like 7.5 points. I see the Chargers winning by multiple scores. I'm not very high on the Saints with how injured they are, to be honest.
I think this one will be Chargers still going to win. I think it's going to be closer than what you're saying. I just have a feeling that this is going to be an Alvin Kamara game, and he's just going to go absolutely nuts out there. But yeah, I don't see a world where New Orleans wins unless Kamara goes off for like 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, unless Kamara goes insane.
Yeah, and I think that he is going to go insane because we've seen him do it against the Chargers in the past. But I think that this is going to be one where it's just not quite enough for him.
Yeah.
This will be a fun one. The 5-2 Buffalo Bills at the 4-3 Seattle Seahawks.
Seattle's got a good home field advantage. They always have. They're one of the few teams where you look when they're playing at home and you're like,
they have a true advantage.
Yeah, like they have a real good home field, and especially I think a lot of it just has to do traveling to Seattle for a lot of these teams is really rough. I mean, the only team that's even remotely close to them is San Francisco geographically. Everywhere else is like a multiple-hour flight to get to Seattle.
Yeah, Buffalo is having to go 3 time zones over to be able to play them.
I just don't think it's going to matter. unfortunately for these guys here. I mean, Seattle had a great win last week. I mean, they blew Atlanta out. They showed that they're like, hey, we're not going away. We're not going to give up on this season. We can do something. Buffalo is just a much better team than Atlanta is, and they have a much better QB. And I think with the Seattle defense not being that great, I mean, we could see a 5-touchdown game from Josh Allen. I think he's due for one of those like insane Josh Allen performances. And they also really struggle against the run. And I think Josh Allen scrambling and James Cook, that's a dangerous thing for the Seattle run defense. So.
And Amari Cooper has been a notorious Seattle torture. And I think that this will be a game for Amari where it's like, welcome to the Bills kind of thing. You know, I think that this will be a game where Buffalo fans will be like, oh shit, this is the guy that we got. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Buffalo wins this one. I think it'll be close simply just because the Seattle home crowd is so incredible. And it'll be a shootout. But yeah, I don't think that Seattle's defense isn't going to make a stop when they're called upon.
No, not at all.
The 1-6 Carolina Panthers versus the somehow 4-3 Denver Broncos. Denver's going to be 5-3.
We really should have looked at their schedule. I didn't realize how much of a cakewalk of a schedule they had. When
Denver 5-3, dude.
When I said Denver was going to win 4 to 6 games, I didn't think that they would keep matching up against just actual dog shit teams.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like how could you pick Carolina here? Denver is just significantly the better team.
Yeah. Everyone is significantly the better team against Carolina, except for the Browns.
Oh my god, dude! They lost by 33 points to Marcus Mariota, man. Like, how does that happen?
Dude, the Carolina Panthers are a dumpster fire. They're going to end up in one of Portland, Salt Lake, or Austin, Texas. Like that is they're going to be in a new market before you know it. Yeah, they're bad. Kansas City Chiefs 6-0 at the 2-5 LA Raiders. I think this is the game that Kansas City loses.
Really?
They've got to lose one. And so I'm just going to, I mean, they're not going to go undefeated. Not with the amount of injuries that they have. They're going to lose one. Why not? Why not the Raiders, right?
I mean, I get it. It's a division game. I just think the Raiders suck. Like, I think they're so bad this year. I mean, like I said, after Devontae Adams got traded, I mean, I like Max Crosby and I like Brock Bowers. And then we're done. And then after that, I don't like anybody on that team. I think everybody else on that team sucks. So I can't see it. I think if the Chiefs can beat the 49ers as handily as they did, I think the Raiders don't stand a chance.
Nah, it's the perfect recipe for a loss. You know, they're on the road traveling to Las Vegas. They're 6-0. They just whooped the 49ers ass, you know, feeling probably pretty good about themselves. They're like, hey, despite all these injuries across the board, we're still 6-0. I'm not saying that, you know, Andy Reid does a good job of preparing his players every week. I'm not saying that they're going to be complacent per se, but I do think that there is going to be a slower aspect to their game. And I think that, yeah, this is just going to be one of those really weird games where they're going to lose, and it might be the only time they lose all season. And they're going to be 16-1 going into the playoffs, and we're going to be like, what was their one loss? It's going to be like,
oh yeah, it was the Raiders.
Yeah, they lost to the Raiders. Because I feel like that's always how it goes for Kansas City anyways. They always lose to one shit team a year, you know? And it's always like, how did they lose to that team? And everybody's like, we don't know. Just law of averages.
I get it. Like, they usually drop a division game. I just don't see it being this one. I feel more confident about them dropping a division game to the Chargers or to the Broncos than I do the Raiders. Like, the Raiders, to me, are solidly fourth place in that division. Like, they are much worse
which
than the
makes it
Chargers
absolutely perfect
the
for
Broncos.
an upset. So we're gonna come back to this. I won't clip this. I'm too busy. Part of me says I want the viral moment and to clip it, but dog, I got 3 jobs. I'm not gonna clip this shit. But we'll come back to this.
We'll make Danny do it.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. The 4-2 Chicago Bears versus the 5-2 Washington Commanders. The unstoppable force that is the Commanders offense versus the immovable object that is the Bears defense. This should be a good one. This should,
for sure. It's really going to depend on who's playing. I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to be playing after the injury. I don't know. I haven't seen any injury reports for Jaden Daniels yet. I think if Jaden's playing, I think the Commanders win. I think if Mariota's playing, then give me the Bears.
Fair enough. I think that's the exact same way that I would approach it. The 3-3 Dallas Cowboys at the 3-4 San Francisco 49ers.
This is everybody in America's least favorite game. It's like watching the Axis versus the Soviet Union, like.
Fuck you. Oh, man.
This is what was occurring in Russia when, Germany invaded. Nobody.
I will say this. The Cowboys should win this game. Do I think that they will? Absolutely not, because it's Dallas. We should win this game because, San Fran has nobody on offense at this point. They have a starting quarterback who's struggled quite a bit this season. They're down their wide receiver 1 and 2 because Debo is going to be out with pneumonia. Or even if he's back, he's not going to be even 100%. 80% of who he is. He'll be 60% at best. But, no Debo, no Ayuk, no CMC. Jordan Mason has not looked half the person that CMC is. He had a couple of good games, but he's also had some games where it's like, you're clearly not Christian McCaffrey. And somehow the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose this game. Yeehaw. And it's going to be incredible. Brock Purdy is going to put on an absolute clinic against us. He's going to go for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and everybody's going to be like, wow, Brock Purdy, maybe this is his bounce back game, and we're going to be the ones who get made a fool of. George Kittle, the only thing that is going for the 49ers currently, he's going to go off for all 3 of those touchdowns that I just mentioned because he, for whatever reason, turned into prime Antonio Davis or Antonio Gates, against the Dallas Cowboys. So,
yeah, I'm with you. Dallas is just, I don't know about Dallas this year, man. Dallas has done some abysmal things. Jerry's got his grubby little fingers all over that team this year, and it shows.
And we're just soft, man. Dude, it's so frustrating seeing just how soft our team is because it's like there are teams that are worse than us that in a head-to-head matchup, I'm like, you would win just simply because your players at least play hard, If we were to play against Denver right now, I think we would lose because at least the guys on Denver play hard,
I think the Lions just demoralized you guys. I think that's really what there is to it because you guys beat Pittsburgh. And yeah, Justin Fields had a bad game, but our defense was still playing lights out. And, maybe if we had Russ, we would have won that game. But the thing is it's like, I don't know, at the beginning of the year, even though you went to 3-3 you went to 3-2 or whatever after you beat the Steelers, there was still this team has something going for it. It might not be a Super Bowl caliber team, but it's at least a playoff team. But after losing Detroit in that fashion, it's hard to look at Dallas and be like, yeah, this is a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, because you knew going into that game that Detroit was going to give you everything that they had. And dude, we came out still sleepwalking because Mike McCarthy can't get us prepared for anything, and it's frustrating. You know, our marquee player on offense and defense, you know, CeeDee Lamb pouts constantly if the ball isn't thrown to him, or something happens, a throw's not absolutely perfect. And then Micah Parsons, on the flip side of things, just goes and bitches on his podcast whenever we lose. Like, we have such an unserious roster head to toe, and it's so frustrating. So, yeah.
And it's hard to field a competitive roster because you're spending so much fucking money on your marquee players.
Yeah.
So it's like, for those guys to sit there and, to complain and be so down on themselves and talk about how unfair shit is and how it shouldn't be going this way. And it's like, guys, like, I hate to say it, but you're part of the problem. Like,
yeah,
if you weren't taking up 75% of this cap, like, yeah, I bet your other position players would be better. I bet there would be easier things to go for. But you wanted that amount of money. And when you get that amount of money, guess what? Your roster is going to be worse. Like,
yeah,
maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's not the way it's supposed to go. But that's just the way the salary cap works. It's to prevent situations where you can have 5 marquee players and still field a bunch of good veterans,
Yeah, that's the reason why Tom Brady won as many rings as he did, because he was the one quarterback who was willing to say, you know what, I'm not going to gouge you for money. Instead, fill my team with winners. And what did the Pats do? They win 6 Super Bowls in like 15 years. Like,
stupid.
Very clear case study. All right, last game on the docket. The New York Football Giants are visiting your Pittsburgh Steelers.
It feels weird because I have not been confident about Pittsburgh winning games really since I was like in elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
like the teams that I saw that won the Super Bowls, the like that era of, late Cowher, early Mike Tomlin football, I was like, yeah, no, it's easy to pick the Steelers to win some of these games, right? Since then, the Steelers have always just had this reputation of playing down to their opponents and playing up to their competition. Like, it's always, there's been so many years where, Steelers lost to the Ryan Finley-led Cincinnati Bengals. They lost to, I'm trying to give some other examples. They lost the Washington Commanders one year when they had like 2 or 3 wins. They will blow these like games where they're super heavily favored. We've had a really good defense for the last couple of years. This is the best defense I have seen the Steelers have, since like the 2010s defense. This is one of our best defenses we've ever fielded. And the fact that now we have competent quarterback play is not amazing.
About to say that,
but the fact that it's competent, like it functions. Like Russell Wilson can throw the ball down the field. He has trust in Pickens to make a play, and guess what? Pickens is going to make a play, even though he's an insane person. He'll make a play.
Yeah, we were talking about bad people earlier, but
Pickens has sexually assaulted women. But
I was about to say, obviously not to the same level as John Weinstein, but
the offense is clicking. The running games does well. Our tight end room, it might be the best tight end room in the league. We have Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and Connor Hayward. Like, you can involve all 3 of those guys, and it's awesome, and they actually do really well. Freaking Darnell Washington is like 6'7", 285 or something stupid. That guy is massive.
Yeah.
So I think just with the tight end room, I hate our receiving core still outside of Pickens. Like, Pickens is really our only guy. And then Calvin Austin's okay, but, he can drop some balls. He doesn't run the best routes. He's just really fast. But I think just having competent QB play out of Russ, how do you lose to the Giants? And if we do lose to the Giants, then pack it up for the season. I'm done. I don't want to watch any more football. But we should beat the Giants.
If y'all lose to the Giants, that just means you need to bench Russ and put Fields back in.
Put Fields back in. Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm pretty confident it's going to be a belt to ass affair, and y'all are going to absolutely stomp New York. So,
and if the Steelers blow out 3 opponents in 3 weeks, I swear I'm not living in reality anymore. Like, we went to an alternate dimension.
Insufferable.
Like, I was texting my dad. I was talking to my dad, and I was like, when was the last time we blew out teams back to back? I was like, I don't remember the last time the Steelers beat 2 teams like in blowout fashion in a row. Like, We'll sometimes throw in a random blowout here and there, but I've never seen us do it back to back. I won't say never. We probably did, but I couldn't remember. My dad was like, yeah, this doesn't feel real. And if we do it 3 weeks in a row, then I don't know. I'm going to start going ballistic. Like all of a sudden the Steelers are going to be a Super Bowl caliber team, even though they're not,
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, cool. Any final thoughts before we end the show?
I think we got it all.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This has been the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football. Again, please give us that 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Pods, whatever it is that you're listening to us on, because it's the best way for us to grow the show. And then that way we can talk to more of y'all and have bigger and better conversations. So this has been Jordan and Tanner saying so long. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, BetStamp, at signupexpert.com/fiasco. Thanks, y'all.
We love you, BetStamp.
Well, I like school, and I like football, and I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good.